What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Para Theory Podcast, episode 6. With me, as always, Mr. Craig Youngblood in the house. And joining us today, Mr. Justin Holstein. Dude, it is so good to see you, my friend. It's been a
You
long
too?
time. It's been a long time.
I just started calling you Ross because we're both Justin. So then that's what separates us is Ross and Holstein. So
There we go. There we go. Yeah. For you guys that don't know, Justin Holstein has been a part of quite a few things over his career, spanning from bands to music videos to film work, paranormal movies, and lately you've been working on quite a bit of. Last I checked was oh God, what is
MMA,
MMA? Yeah.
yeah. I
So-
know. Part of that's situational. The Quad Cities ended up being this so Militich fighting system started in the Quad Cities, and Pat Militich is a UFC Hall of Famer, and he trained 3 other UFC Hall of Famers: Jens Pulver, Robbie Lawler, and Matt Hughes.
Oh wow.
So they're all out of the Quad Cities, and they're all Lawler's down, I guess, in Florida. We're trying to bring him up for another event in March, but yeah. So that's kind of how that happened.
Well, since we're on the fighting subject, you got any opinions about this Friday coming up?
No. In fact, if you wanted information on that, my son would be a better. He watches nothing but every single fight every weekend and has all of his buddies over. I am always on other subjects when I'm not doing the fighting stuff. So I'm always trying to set up for the next fight. And so then I'm like the last event we brought in, or 2 events ago, we brought in BJ Penn. And there's always like all this dance and contacts, and this person knows this person. I mean, you deal with this all the time.
Yep.
Jumping between the music industry and the film industry. It's just like, you might have a connection on the music industry side that might have a connection on the film industry side, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I hope he bites both ears off. I at least just want to see that happen.
Oh, Tyson?
Yeah, that's just funny.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I forgot. So I wasn't even thinking that's not MMA. That's just Tyson, a boxing match, right? So, yeah.
I hope he bites both ears off. What do you think, Craig? You think he's going to take both ears off
With his fist,
with his
him out.
Yeah, I mean, he might bite it. He might bite it.
His bite, that would be awesome if he did actually, but his biting days, I think, are over. I think he got his sanity back. I think his sanity was almost gone at that point.
I thought his sanity was gone when he did The Hangover.
Dude, he's been through some shit. If somebody were going to tell the story of Tyson, not just his early years, but losing his daughter too, I mean, there's a lot of drama in his life. So,
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, if he doesn't come walking in that ring with a tiger on his side, I'm out. Tiger is back how I would come in to fight Jake Paul.
Oh my God, that would be epic. Wouldn't that be epic if 2 tigers in big chains were walking down with Tyson? Oh my God, that would be so epic. I'd love that.
Well, man, okay, let's go back. So tell me a little bit about how you got started and what led you to today, basically. Like when you started getting behind the camera, where did that start?
That started with who knows what it is exactly about somebody's, I guess, personality that likes the idea of performance or even some of the elements of the entertainment industry. But it started with a VHS camera. And we started shooting stupid little, it's those stupid little goofy videos where you just have your parents' VHS camera, and I'd go over to Calyx, and we would shoot these funny, dopey. Sometimes it was a remake of a movie like Predator, and we would just see if we could shoot and edit something that looks similar to that, but it was our source of entertainment, right? I mean, before you're like old enough or mature enough to deal with dating girls or any of that, where you're scared of girls, you're just sitting with all your young guy friends screwing around, you know?
Totally.
And so we would shoot stupid videos and edit them down, and that was kind of the genesis of the idea of any of this, right? Because we went off to college after that, and we kind of got into the idea of having a professional career, and I never considered this as a professional career. I didn't actually know that was possible. I mean, if you're from the rural area of anywhere, but I was from the rural area, grew up on a farm in Iowa. So the idea that you could be like Hollywood, that was for somebody else. That's not for you, you know? You're from a farm. You could be a farmer. You could, I don't know, all these basic things is what, but the idea of college is you kind of allows you to dream a little bit, think a little bit about what you possibly could be. And I think at that point I had started a TV show at Iowa State University on the cable channel, like the local cable channel. And I brought Kalik on there because he was writing articles for the Iowa State Daily. And because he, Chad made a big splash even back then. He would write literally in the sports section. He would be writing about opening up for what was Pamela Anderson, Tommy, the band Motley Crue. Yeah. They opened up for Motley Crue, and he got to hang out with them backstage before they opened. And his whole, sports story is about younger years of jerking off to Pamela Anderson to playing with them backstage. And this is when you didn't write stuff like that. Nobody did in the paper,
Yeah, right.
So he was the first person breaking that third wall to where like the women's lib groups on campus would have anti-Kalik things, like, because they thought he was such a horrible person.
Holy shit.
But it was all because of just,
But I mean, you're talking like 96, 90, 90,
Yeah.
90,
That would have been 94, probably 93, 94, somewhere in there.
I remember like locally around here in Fort Worth, Dallas, we had Kramer and Twitch were on 97.1 The Eagle back then, and they were kind of doing the same thing, but because, we didn't have like same thing you're talking about. Now you're talking about a Metroplex, right? You're talking about a big two towns rivalry, right?
Yeah.
Kramer and Twitch would come on there, and they got booted from 97.1 The Eagle because they used to pull pranks constantly. And one time they got on there, like, we got some very sad news. Like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears are both killed in a car accident because Justin was drunk. And it was some shit like that. And everybody, metalheads, losing their mind. And they got fired. But because it was such a huge, nobody said shit like that.
Yeah.
So I could see how, from where you guys are from, to saying something like that, partying with Motley Crue, they would be like, fuck this guy, is the devil.
Right. Right. It was odd the way that all played off. I think that idea, once you have, man, I wish I knew what that little gene is in anybody that makes them want to say something more to the rest of the world, right? Most people just stay silent and they work some job somewhere to make some money, and other people need lots of attention, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't have the answer to that. You're talking to a band member / guy that's on film all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. I was born into that. Was like, oh, you're doing this. Oh, okay, I'm good at this. I'll do this.
Yeah.
Craig doesn't even like being on camera half the time.
How does that work on you guys' final product? Does it switch back and forth automatically, or?
Oh, on the screen when we.
Right. Whoever's talking.
Yeah, I'll cut it down to where it, whoever's talking, I'll make it cut in, and put words up with it. We'll take sessions and promote.
Oh, you edit it afterwards.
Yeah.
Got it.
We're
Okay.
not live. We're not live.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can talk about whatever, and then I just cut it down.
Got it.
PowerPoint it, make it fun.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Children appropriate. Most of the time anyway. Not on Blood in the Water though. Blood in the Water podcast gets way out of control. It's not made for
Yeah.
kids. Yeah.
I think I know a fair amount about you too. After I met you at one of our shows in, I can't remember, was it Houston or
It was House of Blues Dallas.
Dallas?
Yeah, you guys were on the NoFace tour.
Yeah, and man, for some reason, Texas always had big turnouts on the paranormal stuff, and I always wondered why that was.
Yeah.
What is it about Texas, or is it? I don't know, but I don't think we ever had a show in Texas that wasn't either sold out or close to it. Which, and Chad was born in Texas, and grew up there until he was, I forget what age, 7, 8, something like that. So I think he still always eternally feels like a Texas boy. But
man, what I liked about when I started watching footage and you being in it and being behind the camera, the thing that I respected the most is that your skepticism, and in several conversations that you and I have had, your skepticism has always been true to me. It's like same thing with working with Greg. That's why I think him and I make a good team. Is like there's this skeptical side of both of us, and we all know how the paranormal world works, especially people that listen to this show. It's some people will fly off the handle at the first thing that moves, and the other person's going, "What was that?" Let's figure this out. Got to be a reasonable explanation as to why that thing knocked on the wall or whatever. But
the thing is, go ahead, finish your thought.
I got tickled, and it was the first time I saw it was, of course, went to see Sir NoFace at House of Blues, and out of that whole show, there was a few things I took out of it, for sure, but there was a part in there where where you guys were on stage and you're showing a blooper reel, and I'm watching the blooper reel, and I'm watching you, and I'm watching your reactions to things, and I'm going, yeah, all right, that guy, he gets it. He gets it. He gets it because he's in a room going, well, that's not possible. I'm just going to laugh at this. I'm getting excited like a little girl over it, but that's not possible. And it's just your reaction to it, as where some people fly off the handle and get all serious. What the fuck was that? They're moving around. There's, they're all over the place. Yours was like, what was that? Why is that happening? Well, I'm in the crowd. Everyone's like, and I'm laughing, 6 rows back or however many there in House of Blues. I'm the one laughing in the crowd. And then people are looking at me like, why are you laughing? I'm like, oh, just don't get it. Just leave it alone. So I think that kind of falls into some questions I have, is because I know what it's like to be the guy behind the eye looking and filming and working with other teams and stuff like that. And that's one of my first questions is when let's get into when you started into the paranormal. Like, what led you down that road?
That started at Chad's house. I was friends with his older brother Brian because he was in my grade in high school. I think he came in the freshman year in high school. And, they were the new kids in town. If you're a new kid in a rural town, you stand out like a sore thumb, and especially them because they both had long hair. They were both into you can imagine Chad with long hair. He used to have long blonde hair. Yeah.
God.
And, but he was way younger. I think I remember him at the time around 12 or so. And Brian, his brother, had curly long hair, and we called him Hesh. And he actually got his license plate on his Trans Am. They had a fire that burned down their house, and they got money and bought. I remember Brian got a Trans Am, and I forget, Chad had some crappy little blue goofy sport I can't even remember what it was. Anyway, so I would go over to their house, and it was just hanging out, playing video games, you know. And Chad was the annoying little brother at the time. That man, that kid had a mouth on him. He would challenge anybody at anything, and did not know his place. You know what I mean? In a Midwestern town, if somebody acts like that, you generally pop them in the face a few times and they learn their place. Chad was not. Yeah, he was. I didn't like him initially, and he says the same about me. He didn't like me either, but because I always thought to Brian, you need to beat the shit out of your little brother. He's a mouthy little prick, man. But we would go over there, and I remember the first time something happened. I would hear these stories because they would talk about things happening there. And at the time, the way, if you ever watched the movie American Ghost Hunter, there was a lot of stuff going on with their mother. I took it as she's crazy. And in a lot of ways she was. So I thought she'll make up anything, do anything, whatever. That was my take of his mom, Debbie Kalick. But you know, one night Brian and I had gone into Council Bluffs and we watched the movie Lawnmower Man. You remember that movie? It was an old.
Oh yeah.
Where he goes into the computer and takes over or something, right?
Yep.
And there's a scene in there where he goes, "I am God," because it rules this computer universe that he went into. So we get done watching that, drive back. We're at Brian's house, and it's late, like all stupid teenagers. We were always staying up really late. And it was almost maybe 2 a.m. And Brian, played electric guitar, and he had his amp on, but he turned it down really low. And we were screwing around playing in his room upstairs. And his mom and dad were asleep downstairs. And Chad went and stayed at one of his friends, I think in Neola. And so Brian and I are up there, and I grabbed the mic, and we were messing with distortion pedals. And I grabbed the mic and I said, "I am God," like remaking that. And at 2 a.m. with the effects, everybody it was dead quiet afterwards. And Brian goes, "We should stop doing this." And I was like, why, Brian? Are the ghosts going to come get us? And he's like, "Dude, just quit talking about it." And I'm like, Brian, all I hear, and I start kind of being the skeptic. I'm always, is all this bullshit. I was going to finish my sentence about his mom and all this. And right in the middle of it, as I'm saying this, it felt like, it's, how you going up in an airplane and your ears, you have to pop them because the air pressure's changing.
Yeah.
It felt like the air pressure went got high outside, because all I remember is it felt like my ears went shh as I was saying it, and I was almost like stopping, like what the. And as it was doing that, all of a sudden, boom, the door just pops, or I didn't know it was a door at the time. There's just a loud bang, and we had his door was kind of slightly open to his room, and it kind of was swinging open slightly, right? So I jump up because I'm thinking, oh, well, somebody's fucking with us. Yeah. And at that time, it didn't occur to me Chad was in Neola that night, and the only 2 people were his mom and his dad, which we were downstairs asleep. But at that moment, I thought, well, they must have woke up, or somebody must have come and hit this door to scare us or something. So I go over, and what had landed on the floor was this big shampoo bottle. And I look up on the door and it's wet. So I'm thinking logic would tell me somebody for some reason took a shampoo bottle I don't know why they would have gotten it wet, but it must have thrown it and hit the door, right? And so then I run over and right away, right as I got up and right as it happened, Brian started yelling, "Mom, Dad," like freaking out. Because from their standpoint, this happened all the time, like stuff like this, right? From my standpoint, somebody's fucking with us. So I run into the bathroom across the hall, expecting to find somebody maybe that was in there that threw it, and I'm hearing him yelling downstairs. And at some point, they're waking up and they're turning on lights and coming over to. You could see over the banister. You could see the downstairs area. So as I'm over there checking the bathroom, there's no, and it was odd. I even thought, well, they must have gotten it wet, and then the bathroom sink was dry. And I looked over the bathtub, and there was no water or anything in the bathtub. So I'm thinking, well, how? And as all this is going off, and I'm trying to figure out the logical reason why our door just got hit, that it started swinging open, that somebody had to do this, right? And then finally, his mom and dad wake up. His dad comes running around out in his underwear downstairs. I see him, and they're like, "What? What?" But right away, I remember Rod. Again, this was more normal to them. He started saying like biblical verses and shit, like, and I thought, Jesus Christ, what the fuck, man? I just thought this family's crazy, but then as I really started thinking about it, what I remembered was, wait a minute, all this makes sense except for what was my experience with the air pressure changing. Nobody can change the air pressure
Right.
in the room. And then there was just this inherent thing too that, like, I don't even know how to explain it, man. I just couldn't figure that whole night out for so many reasons. And that was just the first instance of something happening there. So that was where, a lot of my answers or questions were answered about why, if you had some experience with the ghost. I always thought if I actually saw a ghost or whatever, I couldn't quit talking about it. Right? I would go around telling everybody blah, blah, blah. And what you realize is, no, they will just think you're crazy if you go
Yeah.
around saying that.
Totally.
They'll
100.
think you're like, oh, yeah, Holstein, you remember him? Yeah, dude, he was fucking talking about a ghost or some bullshit, and they would all laugh, right? And you're thinking, oh, that's why you don't go around talking about this once something happens, because you're just this weird person in the group now. So, it's almost like you just start thinking that's why people don't talk about shit like that. You're not going to get somebody to believe you anyway. It's one of those firsthand things. You either had to be there or right.
Yeah.
So I tried thinking about that many different scientific ways afterwards. And out of all the experiences through all the years, man, and we went through a ton, all over, from going to England on the border of Scotland and shooting in the Edward Longshanks castle and for three
That was
nights.
for
4
Blood
nights.
Red Sky, right?
Yeah. Just a ton of stuff. And to me, in my mind, that one is still the biggest puzzle. Not only for that story, for all the various things that ever happened there that I could not, that it really made me start thinking something is going on that we're not aware of. Now, when you talk about being a skeptic, I think it's not so much that I don't believe that something happened. I think I just don't necessarily attribute it to a apparition or a spirit or what we consider these things, because there could be so many possibilities, And I never knew how to verbalize that until the movie with Matthew McConaughey came out, Interstellar,
Mm-hmm.
and Fifth Dimensional, and I if I remember walking out of Interstellar and I heard people going, "What in the fuck was that?" Like they didn't remotely understand what was happening, right? But if you have the brain and mind that you're already focused on this stuff, I thought it was such an amazing film because they were able to visualize and show the concept of the future, the past, all being in the same plane, like Einstein's theory that time, or understanding that time is not real, it's just something we experience, that it's already all played out, and that it's like you can jump to any point on the record by picking up the stylus and just moving it and dropping it here or dropping it here, you know?
Yeah.
And
Very true, man.
yeah, and that we just don't fully understand reality yet. We have this certain version of reality that we get, but at one point we didn't understand there was infrared light or light that is shining, that we just don't see it because it's off the visual spectrum. We don't know there's audible frequencies that are sounding off right now that are outside of our audible hearing. So for all practical purposes, they don't exist to us until we created devices to show infrared light or to, hear sound outside of our audible spectrum. That gets into the understanding of outside of our experiencing of 3D reality. We're only able to experience 4 dimensions of this reality, and supposedly there's 11. So, by modern physics.
Correct.
Now,
Right.
what that all means is currently maybe beyond most people's understanding, but we're always learning things every year. And it might get to a point that just like we would show a cell phone to a cowboy in the 1800s and he would not remotely understand what this is, how it functions, anything, that might as well be paranormal or something to him.
Right.
Maybe that's our understanding of what reality is right now. So
No, I'm with you on that, man, for sure. I mean, there was, there's been a couple times where we've been in places where things have happened and it shouldn't have happened. But I'm with you in the part of we have to call it something. So
Yeah.
people call it paranormal. People call it ghosts. They give it a label, and that label makes them feel more comfortable. All right, that's this, or that's a speaker, and this is a screen, and we were talking recently about where do we go from here after season 1 of Paratheory, because what we caught at the Northwestern Hills PD was kind of it's on the level of NoFace. It was just, it came out of nowhere. We have no answer for it. There's clearly no answer for it because of the room. We were in a jail. I had the keys to it. You had to come through 2 big double doors to get in there. It's really small and contained. It had like a men's ward, a women's ward, but it's real small. This is like your local town jail, right?
Yeah.
It only has like so many rooms. And, we're sitting in the guard shack and there's this doorway. And right out of the corner of the screen, this little face just peeps in. And I mean, it's so weird how it comes into frame and how it shined through things that are going through my mind that you guys both well, I know Craig understands. I know you'll understand. Like, one, all the lights are out, right? And how on its face, the IR light that's shining from the camera behind me is glowing off of its face, like it's reflecting, so it's a solid. But the way it's behind a door that has a window on it, so we're in a guard shack, and then there's a door inside the guard shack that goes into what used to be a kitchen, like a little prep kitchen. Right? They had a refrigerator. That's where they stored your fucking, your bologna sandwiches if you were in jail, or your Hot Pocket or whatever the hell you were getting. And it had a little bathroom back there, and this face pops up. And for me, out of wanting to do, you and I have had several conversations about paranormal. Craig and I have had several conversations about it and been out in it and done it. I even went out with Kalik a couple times and had some experiences there, but nothing ever, not in my entire life like this. And it made me go, where do we go from here? Okay, well, that happened. Whether people believe it or not, I don't give 2 shits in the world. Don't care. For my answers that were trying to figure out, can this actually happen? Can I see it happen? Well, I got to see it happen. And
Yeah.
not only in the dark, sitting there in the pitch black, only light I can see is off of his camera, because his camera's looking at me, and I got a camera behind me sitting up on the table looking over me, looking at him. And to be able to see it with my own eyes in the dark, like it was glowing in a sense, but it was so fast. It was so quick. When it happens in real time in the video, you unless you're looking for it, you're not going to see it. And the only reason,
what makes it hard to me with the video aspect is people don't know this unless you've shot stuff and you get comfortable to that switch of shooting and directing or capturing something on camera. But you've probably seen this, and you can have a buddy who's fucking hilarious the way he talks, and you put a camera on him and say, dude, say that again, and he's not the same. He because he knows the camera's on him,
right?
And he kind of like, he tries to say it, but it's like, no, dude, say it like you said it. And it's like, and they can't because they're not saying it to you anymore.
That's him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
and the problem that makes it so difficult to capture any of this reality on camera is that it's like, as soon as you put a camera on, it feels like you're making a play or a story, but you're not being real. You know what I mean? And they, the show The Real World, that was kind of the principle of the whole thing, is that they would just keep shooting until you had to stop pretending and start being real at some point, because you got to live your life. And if the camera's always on you,
right,
at some point you're going to break and go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to start being myself now, because I got to, and if I'm pissed that the camera's on me, I'll get pissed,
right.
Right. But you're going to be real at least. What the difficult part is, anytime a show's being filmed, it's hard to get everybody to actually be real. And I think when you're off camera, all these things happen that are real. It's just hard to recreate.
I think that's where we kind of nailed the approach of, like, when we were filming, we got finally used to just the camera being a thing in the room, like it was your wallet in your back pocket or your phone per se. And we would put them on these monopods and just set them over here and just forget about it. We had lav mics on for our audio, but we would just get to bullshitting with each other in the room. And there's we even talked about releasing like half a blooper reel, because it's just him and I in the dark fucking telling jokes and being fucking retarded. We're not even, at this point, ghost hunting is off the table. We're just shooting it, and that's when we would start having shit happen, when we would just stop trying to find the thing.
Well, that's what I think, that the play isn't just about the people. What the whole principle of the concept of a blood red sky was that consciousness creates reality. This actually just is an opinion. If you look it up, there's I could send over to you when we're done, but the CIA has the classified, it's a 42-page paper, literally has graphs, everything, where this Army general is asking for an assessment. I can't remember the position, the person under him he's asking it for, but there was a consciousness program the CIA was running at the time, and I'm forgetting what it was called, but he was asking for an assessment of that consciousness program. And as that person is responding, they're like, before I explain the effectiveness and process of the program, it's first important to understand what consciousness is. And the next sentence is, we are an infinite being. And this is a CIA declassified document. And he's basically saying that we are an infinite being. We subjectively are experiencing reality that we're creating through all of our conscious involved creation, all entities involved. And he gives charts on how it works. He shows white holes, black holes, where matter is created and where it's enveloped. He gives, it's fucking like mind-blowing shit, dude. I remember reading it thinking, this is written in such a way where you have to read it like 6, 7 times to even understand what he's saying exactly, you know.
Right.
It's not like trying to think of the author, like it's not like Shakespeare where he's necessarily speaking out of order with English. It's just the way he's explaining things. It's almost like legal, like if you're reading a legal contract, like your brain has to go over the words to exactly understand. Wait a minute. You know, it's like, how the fuck are you giving charts about how reality works?
Right.
I mean, how would you even know this in the first place? You have to, you know. But for some reason, it hit me as true. Like, this is true. And in A Blood Red Sky, we were exploring the idea of what would happen to our shared reality if, for instance, Joe felt like he was on drugs, or
Right.
you know, thought that we drugged him, or that, you know, somebody goes through sleep deprivation or whatever. Will this have any culminating effect on our shared reality? And I mean, that was the idea of what Chad was trying to show in that. But I think that that's actually true. I think all of us, even just in the world, as Americans, everything, we have certain things we think are real or not real, and we can literally create realities by our shared beliefs and you know, understandings. And I think that's why the whole thing of what you will witness if you're filming to try to see a ghost, if nobody is really in a state of real at that moment, it's hard to see real, because you're creating a reality outside of, you're trying to show on camera a reality of truth, and yet by the very fact that you hit record, everybody's inherently not used to being truthful at that point.
Right. Totally. 100%. You're nailing that on the head, because even getting into like groups where we're outside of our comfort zone, that's why, like, when we did all these investigations, sometimes we'd have people out with us, you know what I mean? And they're expecting that everybody's vibe and aura and everybody's energy is completely different, you know, but Craig and I's always kind of remained the same, you know, and we knew we were there to investigate what we were in there to investigate, the claims of or this and that. But as we're like folks that would come along with us, that's what they want to see, a ghost. They want, everything's a fucking ghost. The fucking wind blew, that's a ghost. This is the chair moved. Oh shit, you know, and everyone's freaking out. And then when we finally narrowed it down and just got it down to us two and started doing it just us two and just enjoying, really honest, in all honesty, and for all the PT fans out there, honestly enjoying a night off. Literally enjoying a night off. Like, no work, phones off. I haven't had to answer a text. I'm with my good friend. We're just sitting here talking in a dark room. And a lot of paranormal investigators will say, I'll never get those hours back where I was just wasted in a dark room by myself talking. And I'm just like, yeah, but I was with my good buddy. We were just hanging out. And then down and we tried to figure it out. We couldn't. We're going to chalk it up to the fucking fridge turned on. But we would have shit that would happen and go, okay, well, that, you know, you sit in a house. I mean, God, you sat in God knows how many homes, but you sit in a house in the dark. And even Chad said this once when I took him out there to the Flint Creek Ranch. The first night that he was out, I laughed my ass off, because here's Chad, who's worked with you, who's been on countless investigations in some of the most notoriously haunted places in the world. I bring him to Flint Creek Ranch, put him inside this gigantic mansion that looks like something right out of the movie Clue. And we're in the master bedroom, and it's dark. It's 2,500 acres of nothing. We're the only people out there, and there's the big house, and then there's like what do you call it? Hunters' quarters. Like, he's got lodges down here, and that's where I was staying. I had Chad staying up in the big master bedroom. It's a huge bed. You know, had his fridge stocked and ready for him to go. And he's like, let's just sit here and listen to this home. And we're sitting there and we're listening. And it's just, I mean, you could have heard a mouse fart in this place. It was so quiet. And then you'd hear like the fridge kick on. Then you'd hear, the grandfather clock in the foyer clicking. You could hear it going, and then you could hear the air conditioning kick on and kick off. And he's like, "All right, if there's somebody in here, give me one. I want. You know how Chad is. I want one. Definitive. Give me one definitive. Just give me a big one."
Yeah.
And about that time, boom! That the whole floor shook, and I was like, "Told you." And he was like, "Fuck that!" Like he was just like, "Fuck this." Right? And he was like, "Give it to me again." Like he was immediately just on top of it. "Give it to me again." About that time, boom! It hit again. And I was like, "Was that you got enough? Tomorrow we got to investigate this place. We can set up cameras tonight, but we got to investigate." And he's like, "Well, I don't know what that is, but let's go walk around the house." So now he wants to go walk around the house. He wants to make sure no one's there, no one's fucking with us. And obviously there's nobody there. So we walk the whole home, and I get him back up to his room, and I'm like, "All right, man, you need anything? Just press the button over there. I'm down the road." I'm like, I'm just taking the golf cart down to my little cottage for the night. He's like, "No, you're not fucking going to a cottage tonight. You're staying in this room with me." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You're staying in the room with me." And I was like, "Dude, I'm not sleeping in a bed with you, sir." Like, you're sleeping by yourself. I got you this. You can go. I tell you what, you go down to the cottage. I'll stay up here by myself. Like, "No, we're staying here." Because this bed's like, this bed that's in there is like bigger than this room I'm in. It's like huge. It's like 2 king size beds put together. It's enormous. It's a custom frame, the whole nine. He's like, "Dude, I'm not even gonna know you're in the bed. Just be over there on the corner. I'll be on this corner. Let's just go to sleep." And I'm like, "All right, Chad, I'll stay in here till you go to bed." And he was like, "No, you're staying here the rest of the night." And so I literally sat there on the side of the bed like this, like just waiting for him to fall asleep. And then he'd start snoring, and I'd get up to walk out. Where are you going? It's like, "Man, you've been through 500 fucking cases in your life, and you're gonna tell me that this is the one that's scaring the shit out of you?" He's like, "Well, I can't explain what that is." And I'm like, "Well, it was one thing it knocked." He goes, "Yeah, but it answered me. They normally don't answer me." And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, and that's the question today. Like, we all have stories, and everyone's got stories of how we got here, what we've investigated. If you had to give advice for going forward for people, what would that be? What would be your advice for, like, let's say the kid out there right now with a camera wanting to get into the paranormal world? What's the advice of that kid?
Well, first of all, you don't necessarily need a camera. I mean, the camera is just that brings in that fourth wall, right? Where you're now shooting your reality. And sometimes I always tell people that they ask, "Are the ghost hunting shows real?" And it's like, well, it's a tricky question, because it's hard to say that anything wasn't real at any one point. But the big thing I do know is you're doing something different than ghost hunting when you're making a show. Meaning, like when we were doing Ghost Prophecies, you have a budget, and this budget is sizable, and a lot of people's careers are involved. You have a network that wants a finished product. You have a production company that is trying to make something motivational so they can sell product. And at the end of the day, your goal isn't to ghost hunt. It's to make an entertaining piece of programming. And you aid that by doing research, say, and part of any of those shows is the interesting information you're learning about history. Like we had researched the natives, the Native Americans that lived in that region, the Hopi Indians, some of these other beliefs. We had a tribesman from Pittsburgh who could give a lot of information and history on some of those tribes. All that stuff is real, right? Meaning there really were Native Americans. There really are all these things are real. So the basis of the show is built around this narrative to be entertaining. Now, the thing is, you have this timeline, and everybody is working. The crew, the supporting crew, is there, and they're working on a 10-hour day max, most likely an 8-hour day. And so you start later in the evening, or depending. Some of the stuff we had to start early in the morning, and we're shooting interviews with people, and you got to get this shot out in a certain timeline for that, to not go over budget. So there's all these constraints, and at the end of the day, what you realize is we're here to make an entertaining show. What you're hoping is that there are real things that happen in these windows, these short windows that we have. I mean, you've seen this yourself. If you've ever ghost hunted personally, which you have, there's some instances you go to some place and nothing happens that night, right? Or maybe you're there and something just happened. You bring everybody up there and nothing happens while they're there. So you can't do this on command. So you end up, it's not that we personally never made anything up, but if you want to read into what was that sound that everybody jumped on, that motivated everybody in the show to be like, whoa, I probably could have went and figured out what that sound was. You know what I mean? It probably came from something, but when you get your heightened in a intensified thing, your imagination can start creating. Now, if you believe that consciousness creates reality, like the CIA document, that would mean potentially we are creating or have bearing on the creation of these things that we're hearing. I don't know that, but all I know is the answer to that, unless you've ever shot a show where you're under these pressures and under these constraints, you don't have the freedom to be. We're not ghost hunting here, I mean, there are times in your life you probably authentically were ghost hunting. You just wanted to know. I mean, when Chad and I started out, we just wanted to know, is this shit real? When we shot Terror Normal, we went down to Waverly Hills, and honestly, I think both of us were fucking fascinated to think, what's going to happen, and will we witness anything? Supposedly this is like one of the more haunted places. I would love to witness what happened at Kalix's house. It had been years and years and years since, because we went through college, and I can't remember how far out of college we were when that all came about, but I think both of us were like, I just want to see this again, to remember that maybe I'm not crazy. That maybe that really did happen, because your mind starts doubting it over time, and you start thinking, I don't know, man, we were 18 or 19. I mean, I don't know, maybe we just had a warped sense of reality at the time. Maybe somehow we made this shit up in our minds. I don't know,
Right.
But that's what makes you want to see it again, just to know, no, there's something going on I can't figure out. Which I would say I know that to be true, in the sense that we don't have everything figured out. And in 2024, in this evolution of humanity, we do not have everything figured out. There's a lot of shit going on in reality we just have not measured yet.
Yeah, totally. 100%. I think you're hitting on something there that I was saying earlier, like, where do we go from here kind of deal. And I think I'm speaking for all paranormal investigators, anybody in the paranormal world. Where do we go from here? Because everyone's kind of got the same platform, right? And I say platform loosely. Shows, whatever. I'm not talking about a television show or whatever. Where do we go as human beings with this to where do we make that contact? One thing I know to be true, Craig has seen it happen. I know you've seen it happen before. we were talking about this last week. We got real in depth with it to a point where I called a good friend of mine who is a sound technician, graduated from Full Sail, the whole nine, and we're trying to take a little bit of different approach to this. But something that rang true on almost all investigations was when we started using like an SB7 or SB11 or a Spirit Box, right? And you're talking about a radio that's scanning frequencies, scanning stations, going back and forth, and it's just going over and over again. And we were able to get intelligent responses coming through that, not just intelligent responses, but we were getting the same voice coming through, answering the question that we're asking. Now, this falls into two things. One, it's either A, intelligently answering back to us what we're asking the question is, or B, it falls into what you're talking about with like the CIA deal, where you're manifesting this thing because you're looking for it, and if it's something slightly you hear this coming through the radio, you're like, oh, it said yes, or it said no, or it said what we asked, or whatever. And there's like a digital recorder out there. It's a Panasonic. It's made by Panasonic that everyone flocks to. You look them up; they're like $2,000 online now, and it was this voice recorder that would automatically record anything as audio is being spoke to it. But if nothing's making sound, it doesn't record, right? And so I've listened to these things 1,000 times, and it's always some gurgled fucking response, and you can just basically matrix that into anything you fucking want it to say. If it has any kind of points, you can syllable that out. It said, I have a hat. Listen, it says, I have a hat. You see this guy freaking out because it said he had a hat on. So I think an idea, and we talked about this before, was I was talking to another dude, Gary Hewlett, who's a sound guy here in DFW. And then I got his opinion on it. I talked to Leighton Autry with Autry Audio. Two complete skeptics, 100% skeptics, like do not believe in paranormal. But when I brought this idea up, they were highly interested. Coming from a musical background, being able to take high-end condenser mics and placing them all over, let's say a house, right? You put one in this room, you put one in the kitchen, you put one in the living room, the foyer, the bedrooms, right? And you put them on standing straight up. Then take like a PA speaker, like a QSC, like a powered speaker. Then run white noise through that speaker at whatever 0 dB. You're hitting a level like 1K or whatever. And then all of those mics you're seeing on a console pull up, and you're seeing channel 1, is kitchen, channel 2 is living room, channel 3, and you're seeing that level, and you're able to match all the mics in every room at that white noise volume, right? What the point would be is, instead of being in the house investigating, set up your trigger objects, but the main goal would be to you're wanting to talk to this thing. So if we can read on an EQ band or an RTA and actually get clear responses coming back to us, we can see it in a wideband where those radios only use so many bands on a little radio. So that frequency is very narrow, and it comes through. Sometimes it comes through clear, sometimes it doesn't. Well, if we can get any kind of reaction that happened, from 35 all the way up to 4K, we can see this and see where it jumps. Then we can start narrowing in on that frequency level, and then be able to, let's say it's hitting between 125 and 250, then we can zero in on that and boost that 125, 250 up. And we can then, the point would be for like how we're talking on these mics, to be able to talk to that 8th or 9th dimension that sometimes we get blips through a radio on.
Here's what I think, and this is why I think it's hard to capture any of that stuff. At one of our events, I don't know if that happened at the event you were at, but we did Q&As, questions and stuff afterwards. And I remember, I don't know where we were at, some old guy. And when I say old, I don't know, he might have been late 60s, 70. He stood up and raised his hand. And I think he addressed it to me, and he said, what? And he said it like this. He goes, what do you think about the nature of our reality. And when he said it, it was like, it's almost like, what if dog was spelled cat? It's like one of those questions where I'm like, I would love the answer. I mean, we're in front of like 600 people. I'm thinking, I love questions like this, but we're going to have to talk afterwards because this is too complicated to answer in a group setting like this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the reason it's complicated because I don't think I did hook up with him after. It gets busy, and I wish I would have. And but what I would have liked to talk about would have been, do you know how when you're playing a video game, I don't know, do you ever play Metroid or Donkey Kong or any of those early video games?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Do you know how you can only go this far, and then there's a ladder and you got to go this way to get up the ladder, and then you can only go this far and you can't go any farther, and then they're giving you boundaries, right? There's program boundaries in where you can go and where you can't go. Which brings forth this question of whether or not we live in a simulated reality that's almost like a video game, but programmed in 3 dimensions forth, considering time, that there are places and things we can't measure or prove because that would take away the realness of our experience of this projected reality, where we would no longer experience the game like it's real, because we would know it's just a game, And it's like Bill Hicks. If you ever listen to Bill Hicks' little stand-up, Bill Hicks, another Texan, do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bill Hicks was a man.
Yeah, epic guy. He kind of said something similar, and I think he said that because he probably witnessed it on some hallucinogenic experience he was on, This understanding of what reality actually is, and how we have a very skewed understanding of it at this point in history. And that maybe that's, purposeful, man. Maybe the point is the journey. We're not supposed to have, if we're able to tell everybody what the secret is, we just broke the game.
Right.
For everybody.
Okay. So Bill Hicks, you go, what it pulls into mind for me is, and what you're saying, like, I hate to be this guy, but like, okay, you bring in like the DMT complexes, right? Or the trials of DMT, right?
Right. Which is something the human body produces. It isn't some foreign drug.
It's the ever lying, they're ever going ongoing joke because we're all holding. It's illegal, but we're all holding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you see these people that are testing this out, and they're all from around the world, never done a drug in their life, signed the little paperwork, said we're going to pay you $1,000 to do this test, and little Susie Q from fucking Georgia is like, all right, darling, I'll do it. And she's never smoked a joint. She's never done anything in her life. She drops DMT, screws through the rocket, comes out of it. Well, I think it's like 12 minutes, I think is what they've timed it at, 12 or 13 minutes. She comes out of it, and for 12 or 13 minutes, she's like, well, I was talking to this thing, and it's changing this way, and then it led me down this path, and I went here, and then there was this, and this guy kept telling me, I just felt so loved, and everything was good.
Yeah.
Well, then 20 people later like that, they all from around the world, they all had the exact same fucking story. Like, it's all matching up. And it's like, You're right, Justin. Yes, 100%. There is this wall, and they put it here, and you got to go up this ladder, and you got to climb over this way, because if you go out this way, or you go out this way, you're going to break the game. This box that we're talking in right now is our box, and that's it. That's the reality. This whole fucking Zoom call right now is a perfect example of realities in 3 different boxes from 3 different places in the world. You know? And that's exactly what it is. So I highly believe that, and that's why, like with Para Theory, that it was more of just a club than it was a show, because we test shit all the time and try and shit off the camera, and But meeting people like I have in my life along the way, like you, I always took that in. I've met plenty of other dudes. I don't care to talk to them again. But, when it comes down to certain people I want to talk to in my life, you're one of them. And I don't want to lose that, because it's like we share that same common thing that is.
We're Justins.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing.
By the way, Craig, are you still there?
Oh, I can't hear you.
Are you still there, Craig?
Oh, your mic got really quiet.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Get right on.
I just want to see if you would appear if you started talking. You didn't pop up when you started talking. I just wanted to see Craig's face to just make sure he's still alive. It'd be awesome if you cut to Craig. Oh, yeah. It'd be awesome, Craig, if you were smoking this whole time and you're just going, whoa.
Dude.
Yeah. And every once in a while you cut to Craig and he's just going,
fucking A, man. Fucking A. Yeah. Craig's been great on stuff, because, man, when he first came into this thing with me, he was like kind of deer in the headlights, but complete skeptic on the whole deal. And then he had some things happen where he was like, holy fuck, every hair on my body is standing up right now. Like, how is that even? What was some of the ones with you, Craig, that you had?
I think when we were at the Yellow House, that was the very first one with everybody, because I had already had experiences in that house by myself. But then to have them with you and Paula and Corey there, it was crazy to have everyone get to experience that. So getting to see you run was my favorite, after I told you not to look up there.
There's a whole real small home built in the early 1803, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Real small 2-story cottage. And my big ass is tromping around in there. The fucking stairwell to go up this thing's like made for hobbits. Like, when it comes to Craig, he's perfect. He could fit right in there, And me, I'm having to duck and like squeeze in to get up these hallways. And we get into this little room, and there's like a little crawl space that goes into the attic. And we go in there. We got like a yes no prism and a rim pod and a couple things, and he's got the camera on me, and we're asking questions. We're getting some responses, and shit's happening. And I just happen to be standing right where that crawl space is, and my head like is hovering, touching the ceiling. That's how low the ceiling. So if I stood straight up, I'd hit my head. And something like brushed across the top of my head, and I was like, what the fuck? And I look up, and it was like two eyes like this, just staring over at me face to face. Like, I came face to face with it, and man, I fucking jumped. I was like, I fucking moved. If Craig had been in the way, I'd have 49'd him in the fucking heartbeat. He would just been 49er tackle move right into the corner. It'd have been a fucking hockey check, one of the two. But whatever it was. But yeah, I'm the big pussy that runs. I'm the one that gets scared in the dark. You ever have any instances like that where it's made you jump?
Oh, Jesus, yeah, sure. I mean, there are a lot of them. I think we played during our shows when we'd be out. I mean, sometimes you just get jumpy, and once you get jumpy, it's hard not to be jumpy about everything. It's almost like autoimmune. It's just like a reaction thing. It starts happening, where it's hard to just calm down once you just get on the edge like that. I have to comment, man, your guys' lighting on your sets is supreme. I come from a film background where I used to light people and shit. And but hey, Craig, say something really quick. Hello, okay. Anything?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. Yeah. Now we're on Craig. Man, you look like if this is a scene from a movie where there's a mastermind who took somebody hostage, and he's giving the list of demands on what he wants, and he's in this spooky setting with that chair. I don't know where you get that chair, man. That's boss. But Yeah, that's exactly that.
You must not have your screen on gallery. If you go on your screen and put it on gallery, you can see everybody all at one time.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll have to look and see.
Probably have it
Okay.
on speaker.
Probably.
Yeah, you put it on gallery. It's like if you're on a Mac, it's in the top right corner under view.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Boom. Now I got it. Okay.
I'm all my
There you
job
go.
is make sure I'm out of his way, so when he takes off running, he didn't take out the equipment.
Shit. That's listen, man. Fuck. All right. Like I'm the first one to be in the group. I'm the guy that's like, don't run. Whatever you do, don't run. There's a wall there, and he's unforgiving. You'll run right into it in the dark. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
And then I'm the first one to fucking just take off running. Like, you know. I think that's that's the childish thing. I think that all of us share is like that's the giddiness. You know, that feeling of butterflies that comes up in your stomach, like when something actually does start happening, something happens in the room. You know, I don't know. It makes me feel like a little kid again. Like I'm just like, oh my god, that's the adrenaline rush that I enjoy of it.
Yeah. It's our natural reaction just from the fight or flight thing, right? Where it helped you survive and your ancestors for the, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years of evolution and how we got here today. So
right. Did you another question? This was from one of the viewers. They wanted to know, did you ever have what does it say here? Did you ever have something non-paranormal scare the shit out of you on a investigation?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, one of them was we're down in the Villisca axe murder house, and somebody is saying, I thought I saw something over in that corner. I think it was one of the guys who used to come to our events, Lee. And what I didn't know is he had a laser pointer in his hand, and he was going to point it out in the dark with a laser. So I'm looking over in the dark, squinting, trying to see if he thought he saw eyes. And all of a sudden, bing, this red just comes out of nowhere. And I just went, and I mean, obviously it was a laser pointer, but no one explained to me that Lee had a he was, I didn't know he had a laser pointer. So I thought that is clearly a fucking bright red thing. And it just came out of nowhere in the dark, man. So yeah, I mean, and there were probably various instances like that. I'm not recalling any other ones right now, but I'm sure there were more.
All right. And is there anything that happened on an investigation that you had to stop the investigation because whether it was paranormal or not, there was something that you were like, okay, wait a minute, we got to stop here, stop investigating, we got to figure this out.
I think there were. Trying to think about the ones I can talk about.
Well, you don't have to say who you were with. You just say, yeah, there was this. I mean, and if you don't, whatever.
Yeah, I think, and sometimes in those instances, man, people. I remember Kurt Smith from Tears for Fears was a manager. He lived in Los Angeles. He started working with us through Chad's band, 35-Inch Mutter. Way back in the day, he was managing Chad's band, co-managing Chad's band. And he got involved and he started kind of helping manage Chad's career after that. So he would come out with us on things. So it was kind of always cool having this guy from Tears for Fears hanging out with us, Yeah. And he's from Bath, England, so he's still got his, British accent. And he would always kind of be like, see the ghost stuff and think, oh, you can stick me in those. I wouldn't, it doesn't faze me type shit. And I'm like, Kurt, dude, I'm exactly like you. I would agree with you in theory. This shouldn't faze you. but there's something built into the human experience that if I took you in a dark prison and you had to walk in the dark for almost a quarter mile through tunnels all the way to the back of the prison, and there's no one around you for a quarter mile in any direction, in the dark, in winding halls, and something happens, dude, there's this fight or flight thing kicks in, and it's almost like, I can't take off running away from this, because all I have to see, there is no lights. I have nothing other than this
Little
and
screen.
then you're hoping the battery doesn't go dead, because your only way of seeing is with this little screen. And you're thinking, you're careful with it too, because if you did run into a wall and busted it, you would have no light and you'd be stuck a quarter mile into a prison in the dark. So I'm telling you, man, it's almost like there's a moment where you're doubting your own conscious self. You're thinking, well, is this how people go crazy and just fold in on themselves, like where they just can't take the anxiety of the moment?
So did this
like,
happen to him?
no, we never did. Kurt never did go out with us ever. I would have loved for that to happen, though. That would have been interesting to see how I guarantee you he would have been just as real to him.
We have a
reality.
buddy that's like that. His name's TJ Roscoff, and he always talks about like, it's all bullshit. Ain't nothing gonna scare me, man. I'm like, bro, I will take you some places in Texas and turn you loose. I will bet you your year's salary you'll come out of this thing changed, man. Like, whether it's paranormal or not, you're right. It's this fight or flight thing that comes over you when you're in there. It just, even when it's been the Craig and I, just the two of us in a place, it's like, holy shit, I'm really glad he's in here with me, because I don't know how I'd react right now. Some of that shit goes down.
The one time I got like that was when we were leaving the house that you got hit in your side in. We didn't have any cameras rolling, nothing, but whatever that scream was at that night at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, I wanted to leave. I wanted all my stuff to already be loaded in my truck so I could just drive off, because that was the most horrible scream I'd ever heard.
It was blood curdling, Justin. It was literally not like a coyote or a rabbit dying or something like that. Like, it sounded like somebody was getting fucking axed 20 foot over from where we were standing in this garage in a really nice neighborhood, like an extremely nice multi-million-dollar neighborhood. Here we are, middle of the night, loading our shit into the. This is one of the investigations that made the reel, but we had so much shit happen. There was no need to stick around. There was no need to see the sun come up. Let's get our shit. Let's get the fuck out of here. Like, we gotta go. Like, I ended up going to the hospital the next day. Like, it was highly intense. But yeah, so that falls right into play with the last question is, what is the darkest thing and this comes from a friend of ours. What is the darkest thing you ever encountered on any investigation?
Well, I mean, at least from my standpoint, it was honestly Calix's house. I don't know if I would. I would just say whatever was going on there, man. There was something going on there, and when we did American Ghost Hunter, and that was years and years and years later, and we went back to his house, and there was another couple living there at the time, and they let us come in there, and we shot that ending of that part of American Ghost Hunter. I can't even remember what Chad and I were saying in there, but it was almost so weird being back there, because that's kind of where that whole journey kind of started. But I was almost hoping, man, something like as real as the things that happened when we were younger would happen again when we were there shooting that. But it's kind of like that consciousness creates reality, man. I think there was a lot of turmoil going on with his family and, you know, the history of, I mean, if you watch that, and then, you know, Chad's working on another film that will, you know, probably ties into that called Harbingers. And we went back to Persia and all those areas. And it's just so odd, man, going back when you're older, because you're still stuck in this thing of trying to prove every moment of your life that something was real. Because no matter how many times you'll see it, you know, or see some witnessing of it, once you take the view off of it and start living your life, you think back and think, did that fucking shit really happen? You know? Because it's like, I know it did, right? I was there. But is memory even real? Or, you know? I mean, I don't know. Right. It's almost like there's no way to ever prove it even to yourself, much less somebody else.
I believe that, man. I believe that. Greg's even brought up, you know, several times about how we should go back to, one was his, I think it was your aunt's house. Is that right? Your great aunt? Yeah. And then, of course, the childhood home where I grew up at, that sparked my interest from day one, you know, and I'm with you. But I think I'd be asking myself the same question. Would be, you know, if I was back there, would these things happen again? I'd love to go ask I know that the place that I lived now is turned into offices. It's still the same home. Looks exactly like the same house, but it's all corporate offices now. They've gutted the whole thing. And that's a whole nother story for another day. But like when I was 24, 25, you know, and this is where my dad died at. And you know, I think you and I have even talked about this before, Justin, but in long term, I ended up having this company call me asking if I was Justin. And I said, yeah. And they said, was your dad Larry Ray? And I said, yes. And they said, you know, we need to talk to you about some stuff that's been happening here in our offices. And we don't know how to come to you about this. We don't even know how to approach this, but please don't hang up. We're real hesitant to make this phone call. That led me down a road to go back there. And the next day I went back there and got to hear, I got to hear my dad's voice come across a EVP, and there was no mistaking that whatsoever. That blew my fucking mind, but saddened me in a way that, like, I was like, God damn, is he fucking stuck here? Like in this.
Well, that's what we don't know, man. I mean, how do we know we ever really die or even really here in the first place? I mean, if consciousness creates reality, if we're an infinite being, if, you know what I mean, where does it start? Where does it end?
Right.
You know, we could have a completely wrong perception of what all this really is.
Can't wait till that day comes. We get to figure that out. get some answers, you know, a little bit more than we know now. Maybe not the whole fucking boat. I'm sure when you die, they don't just go, well, here it is. Here's shit. Here's what you didn't know. We kept this from you the whole time. You're like an ant farm, and we just fucking kept putting sand in there for you to build houses. You know, but yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining us on the show, man. It's fucking great catching up with you. So, I mean, what are your plans? What does today bring? You're working with MMA.
Actually. So, are you familiar with Jen's Little Evil Pulver?
No.
Yes.
Jens is Hall of UFC. He was inducted to the UFC Hall of Fame last year with Robbie Lawler, and I forget who else was in that class. But Jens calls the fights on some nights, and I've just gotten to know him pretty well over the years. And when he did his Hall of Fame induction speech, it was like probably one of the best speeches that anybody's ever done at the UFC like that. And he basically thanked his younger self, young Jens, for not pulling the trigger when he was a sophomore in high school because he had this abusive upbringing where his dad was psychotic, which kind of, I'm almost writing into the idea that, you know how like every superhero or supervillain has an origin story,
Yeah.
you know? And it was always generally something bad or whatever that formed him into this superhero or supervillain. And I'm kind of almost starting it at that segment because it's a college lecture tour where, you know, but I want to do it like the Beastie Boys have. Spike Jones did a thing with the Beastie Boys where he had them tell the story of how the Beastie Boys got started. It's on Apple TV, I think. And he did it more like a film than like a PowerPoint. You know what I mean? It just feels like really cool the way these segments are cut together, like, and the way they do their little parts. And so we've been working on that multiple times a week for like 3 hours a time when he's down here to just try to hash this all out. So yeah, that's what I'm working on with him right now. But in the meantime, you know, we still have events. We just got done with the event in October, and we have a 3-night event coming up in March. So, you know, when you're trying to get all these big names in, it takes some planning. And Mike, the Goodwin, the promoter, is doing a lot of the you know, he books all the fighters and a lot of the show elements that are coming together, and I do all the pay-per-view type stuff. So but yeah, I just somehow I got thrown into the whole MMA world too. I can't shake this entertainment bug, man. It keeps coming back to haunt me.
Yeah. What would you do without entertainment?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, God, you've been working on it your whole damn life, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like somebody asking me to step out of music. Like, I take a look around, dude. I can't. There's no way.
You're fucking amazing at that shit, dude. When you send me some of those clips of what you're doing with the band and everything, it's just like gets better and better.
Thanks.
By the time you're 90, dude, you're gonna be fucking so sweet. No, you guys are awesome though, man. I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you get away from it? You can't. It's the worst fucking drug there possibly is. I mean, Craig too, man. Like, you know, he started off doing photography, and you know, and then I got him into, you know, hey man, you know those badass Nikons you're holding? You can also film with those, and it looks really fucking good. Like, so he's responsible for shooting all our music videos.
Yeah.
So
that to me is interesting. You know, there's a side of trying to capture reality in the paranormal sense, and there's a side of trying to like when you understand light performance, where you can watch a fictional movie that's fucking amazing, you know, and it changes your perception of a lot of things because of how well done it is. And you can see what the director, the person who was trying to create this whole fantasy was trying to communicate, you know. And to me, that's just as paranormal as shooting something that happened in a room, because I don't know, people are fascinating, man. What comes out of somebody, that would happen occasionally on the road on the tour. We would just, you know, get on the bus and somebody would come on that maybe won something at an event or whatever, and you're sitting there talking to them, and it might be this, you know, 16-year-old kid and his dad, and you're talking to the kid, and he's just blowing your mind, like with what he understands about the universe. And you're thinking, wait, how old are you? Like, yeah. I don't get it. What is happening right now? Like, dude, where did you come from? So what do you do? You're just trying to figure out, like, how do you exist, man? You're the most paranormal thing I've witnessed today or in the past week.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, dude. I was actually having this conversation with myself the other day when I was looking at YouTube, and I'm watching some of these bands that are like, they're, you know, 18, 19 years old, and they're recording shit in their garage, and they're using, you know, like an Apollo X8 or something like that to record onto, and they got these home studios. I've worked my whole fucking life to have what I got. You know, these kids are doing it at 18, 19 years old, and some of the shit they're turning out, I'm just sitting there going, holy fuck. Like at 18, I was just figuring out the tone on my fucking Strat to my Hot Rod DeVille. Like I was just getting into my Mesa world or PRS, or I wasn't that technically advanced to where I'm recording an entire record in my bedroom. And I'm watching these kids do that, and then I'm seeing them just turn out video after content, just going out on TikTok and Instagram and all these things, you know. And I'm just like, hey, there's no way that this band is just turning this out. But then I have to go, yes, no, that is right, because they are the technological age of where I didn't, you know, when I was a kid, I got it right in front of me. This was my Game Boy when I was 10, right here.
Yeah, right.
This is it. I still got it, and I finished that puzzle when I was 10. And guess what? I'm still on that puzzle. I haven't gone back to turn this thing. You know, I don't even gonna do it.
No batteries included.
Right. So, of course, why wouldn't this kid be turning out fucking badass records? And you know, and then it makes me look at the 43-year-old me going, shit. Got a long way to go. I guess I got to learn a lot more, you know. And the ever evolving, changing thing just keeps going. And you know, you're right, man. You know, the most you want to find paranormal, just turn on the YouTube.
Just YouTubes.
Look at the younger generation. Be like, that's the most paranormal thing I've ever fucking seen. There, this is the best shit I've heard. Yeah, you're so right. You're so right, man. Because people do, you know, in the entertainment world, they got a story. I have a story. You know, and I met you. I vomited it right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You know, because I was intrigued. You know, and you kind of, I don't know how to explain it, man. It's just
Everybody, everything.
What's that?
You just like to tell everyone everything.
I know, man. Sometimes I'm like Bill Burr, just like watching the shit come out of my mouth.
Yeah. Stream of consciousness, man.
Totally.
I know. Sometimes I'm more honest than for my own good. It's just, you know, sometimes afterwards, you know, when things were, when the spotlight was really honest at that time, we had a show on TV and stuff. I would just say whatever was going through my mind. And then I get a call from Chad going, dude, what the fuck are you talking? Why don't say, dude, you said that in an interview during whatever. And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean that. I meant, you know, you'd be like, dude, doesn't matter. And I'm like, yeah, that's, you start having to be, you know, when you're in the media spotlight, you know, and I know how like Trump feels or whatever, you know, just
right.
Talking about grabbing him by the pussy or whatever. You're thinking, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Shit. Sometimes you say shit, and it's just like a lingo thing, and people are like, and other people take it one way, and you're like, no, that's not what I meant at all. That's not.
Yeah.
Well, can't say it like that. How close are you to Des Moines?
2.5 hours about.
Are you north, south, east, west of Des Moines?
It's straight west, and then Chicago straight east, 2.5 hours.
So you're straight west of Des Moines.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm straight east of Des Moines.
East of Des Moines. Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, you said like an hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, so I'm right directly in the center almost between Chicago and Des Moines. Right on the border of Iowa and Illinois.
Well, June 13th, the boys and I are going to be in Alberta, Canada. We're going up through West Texas, up through Colorado, Montana, and then getting up into Alberta. But when we come back, we have to do the show. So this will be like towards July 1st, that first week of July 4th weekend. We'll be doing Good Morning Des Moines.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing.
Dude, hit me up. Yeah, I've done that. I still got. I mean, Joe lives in Des Moines. Our old first AD from our films and tour manager lives in Des Moines, and I'll still see them occasionally, so I can tell them to come out. And
we'll be there for a little bit too, because we got to come in that we got to do that Good Morning Des Moines on a Monday, and then we're gonna stay a couple days. And then we're playing, the agent's supposed to get back to us, but it's supposed to be like a Thursday, Des Moines, Friday, Des Moines, and then Saturday in Chicago. And then come back down and go to like St. Louis and KC, and then back down to Oklahoma.
Cool.
So, yeah, man, we'll have to catch up when we get up there.
Yeah, sounds like a party, man. I'm down.
Ain't none of us drink anymore, so
No?
no, we're all so.
Yeah, I wish I could quit drinking, but I don't know, man. Just it's too much fun. But
Let me put it this way: you and I go have a shot of tequila at a random bar after an airport ride. I'm okay with that.
yeah, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah.
First time I picked Justin up, I picked him up from the airport. I was picking up him and Kayla, and I was like, "Well, Kayla's not going to be in for an hour. Want to go have a drink?"
That's right. That's right, man. Yeah, I remember
we went. I took him to Tees of all places.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, sorry, I should have done that, but whatever. But yeah, but all right, my man. Well, shit, let's do this again soon. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice talking to you guys.
Gee, man, I'm just gonna stop the recording here in a second, but all you guys watching, so stay on and we'll bullshit a little bit more.
Okay.
All you guys watching, thank you so much for watching and catching up with us here. Episode 6. Justin Holstein, guest on the show, Mr. Craig Youngblood. We will see y'all next time on episode 7. Take care.